Welcome to Controversial and Deep Biblical Breakdown series, sponsored by the Scorned Black Man podcast. I'm your host, Zadok Israel, aka HILLTOPSTROPHIC. I have the brother, Bernard Jackson, aka YISRAYL, and he will be presenting once again his controversial and deep biblical breakdown. And today's topic: did Yahawashi / Yahshua die on the cross? And part 2, do the Quran and Islam tie into Hebrew Israelite culture? Shalom, brother YISRAYL. Hope you're having a wonderful day, my brother. How you been?
I've been good, brother. Just got from work, but I'm ready to go. And like you said, first and foremost, this is another breakdown, deep biblical breakdown, and one of the main topics of it is, did Yahshua or Jesus die on the cross? And I will present again scripture to support my facts, and I'm just going to present my case, and I'll let you decide. And if I have enough time, I will continue to go into the Hebrew culture, which includes Islam and all the tribes of the patrimony and the tribes of Abraham, which consist of his other sons. So without further ado.
But hold on. Before you start, once again, today's controversial and deep biblical breakdown series. Today's topic is, did Yahawashi / Yahshua / Jesus Christ die on the cross? And part 2, do the Quran and Islam tie into Hebrew Israelite culture? Brother YISRAYL, the floor is yours.
Okay. I will begin this presentation from the Holy Quran, Surah 4, ayats 157 to 158. And because of their saying and boast, we killed Isa, that is Yahshua, the son of Miriam, the messenger of Yah. But they killed him not, nor crucified him. But the resemblance of Isa was put over another man, and they killed that man. And those who differ therein are full of doubts. They have no certain knowledge. They follow nothing but conjecture. For surely they killed him not. But Yah exalted him up with his understanding and tablet for himself. And he was over the honorable men. And Yah is ever all powerful, all wise. So we see in the Holy Quran, through the inspiration of Yah, the Prophet Muhammad was given inspiration to testify that Yahshua was not killed nor crucified, but only appeared that way because his resemblance was placed upon another man. And I will show proofs from the Gospels that this is indeed the truth, according to the word of Yah. And furthermore, I would like to expound a little bit on the cross itself, because it ties in with the deception of the cross being a holy symbol, but actually it is the mark of the beast. First and foremost, I would like to enlighten you to a deity that is called On or Anu. In the Bible, it is On. And in the Holy Bible, World Bible Publishers Incorporated, Iowa Falls, Iowa, in its glossary states, Babylon, religion. The religion of Babylon involved many gods. Originally, their chief gods were Anu, god of the heavens, Enlil, god of the upper air, and Ea, god of the watery deeps. No god of theirs had any moral quality or asked for ethical behavior by their followers. Notice, their chief gods were Anu. The first was Anu. The relation between the Babylonians and the Chaldeans in the Holy Bible, World Bible Publishers Incorporated, Our Falls, in its glossary states, Chaldeans. Nabopolassar was the first of the so-called Chaldean dynasty in Babylonia. Babylonians begin to be called Chaldeans, which is the word used to describe the army of the great conqueror Nebuchadnezzar, son of Nabopolassar. In the book, The Wars of Gods and Men by Zechariah Sitchin, page 38 states, it was believed by the Egyptians that Ra 2 had come to earth from the planet of a million of years in a celestial barge, the conical upper part of which, called Ben or Pyramidian bird, was later on preserved in a specially built shrine in the sacred city Anu, the biblical On, which is better known by its Greek name Heliopolis. The word On is word 204 in the New Strong's Complete Dictionary of Bible Words by Dr. James Strong, copyright 1996, and states, word 204, On, of Egyptian derivative, On, a city of Egypt, On. So On was the city of Egypt. And if you know anything about ancient Egyptian culture, a lot of their cities were named after their deities. Concerning the name On in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, chapter 41, verses 45 and 50, it is written, and Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paaneah, and he gave him to wife Asenah, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. Also, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verses 4, verse 7, and 12 through 13. Now, you shall take up this parable concerning the king of Babylon, and decree, how has the proud become feeble, the most fine gold made to rot? On, in all manner, fabricated the use of a carpenter's scribing gall and the desire to engrave. The same is condemned to appear both hideous and shaggy. Surely are you gone to war with heaven, O Lucifer, king of the he-goat. Therefore have you decided to hide thyself within the husbandry, which did waste away the patrimony. For you have purposed in thine mind, I will break with heaven. I will set up my throne among the princes of the patrimony. I will establish also perfect pillars out of the same assembly, with masons that come from another place. So we see that On is also Lucifer, and he's referred to as the king of the he-goat. He was condemned to appear both hideous and shaggy. To confirm this, in the book of Enoch, chapter 10, verse 15, it is written, to Michael, likewise Yah said, go, announce his crime to Samyaza and to the others who are with him, who have been associated with husbandmen, that they utterly become diseased by reason of all their impurity. And when all the builders shall be slain, when they shall see the perdition of their beloved, confine them to an indefinite dwelling within the infernal, even to the day of judgment, the effect of which will last forever, becoming complete. To confirm this in the Holy Bible, in the book of Revelation, chapter 9, verses 1 through 3, it is written, and the 5th chief struck, and I saw a prince cast out from among the raised of the husbandry, and to him was purposed to let go free the desolate that walked the abyss. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the abyss, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the heat and an inanimate breeze were intermixed by reason of the smoke of the abyss. And there came out of the smoke many gods belonging to the world of departed spirits. And over them was the hairy deity, which is the scourge of the husbandman marked impudent. So we see in the book of Revelation, it speaks of a time when the 5th chief strikes. These chiefs are adjured chiefs of the east when they strike against Babylon and against the Roman Empire. But at the time that the 5th chief strikes, we see that there is a prince that is cast out from the husbandry, and he has purpose to let go free the desolate that walks the abyss. These are those fallen angels who were cast to the inferno after they were diseased and cursed to look hideous. Again, in the book of Enoch, chapter 10, verse 15, it is written, to Michael likewise Yah said, go and announce his crime to Samyaza and to the others who are with him, who have been associated with husbandmen, that they utterly become diseased by reason of all their impurity. And when all their builders shall be slain, and when they shall see the perdition of their beloved, confine them to an indefinite dwelling within the infernal, even to the day of judgment, the effect which will last forever. Be complete. Again, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verses 4 and 7, it is written, now you shall take up this parable concerning the king of Babylon, and decree, how has the proud become feeble, the most fine gold made to rot? On in all manner fabricated the use of a carpenter's scribing gall and the desire to engrave. The same is condemned to appear both hideous and shaggy. So it lets you know that this beast, this he-goat, is condemned to appear hideous and shaggy, and he was condemned to the infernal. Now, again, in the book of Wars and Gods and Men by Zechariah Sisson, it states on page 195, while one group of priests began to chant the hymn, Kakab Anu et Telusha Mame, the planet of Anu rises in the skies. A priest went up to the topmost stage of the tower of the temple to watch the skies for the appearance of the planet of Anu, Nibiru. Page 77 states, this orbit, they wrote, takes the planet to a station in the distant heavens, then brings it back to the Earth's vicinity, crossing between Mars and Jupiter. It was in that position, as depicted in a 4,500-year-old Sumerian drawing, that the planet obtained its name Nibiru, or crossing, and its symbol, the cross. In the Young's Compact Bible Dictionary, copyright 1973 by International Bible Society, page 83 states, Babylon, Babylonia, the history of Babylon in Mesopotamia commences with the kingdom of the Hamite Nimrod, 3 generations after the flood. During the 3rd millennia BC, the center of Mesopotamia power shifted southward, first to various Sumerian city-states, biblical Shinar for 2 centuries, following 2400. In the book of Genesis, chapter 11, verse 2, it is written, and it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, they came to a valley in the land of Shinar, and they settled there. Genesis chapter 11 explains when the fallen angels came down during the building of the Tower of Babel and confounded the husbandry and their commandments. Now concerning the mark of the beast. In the New Strong's Complete Dictionary of Bible Words, word 5,516 in the Greek dictionary states, 5,516, chi sigma stigma, the 22nd, 14th, and an obsolete letter. Also its word 4,742 as a cross in the Greek dictionary. Of the Greek alphabet, it's an intermediate between the 5th and the 6th letter, used as numbers, denoting respectfully 660 and 6, 666 as a numeral, 600, 60 and 6. So the cross, the numerical value of the cross is 600, 60 and 6. Word 4,742 as a cross in the Greek dictionary of the New Strong's Complete Dictionary of Bible Words, it is written, from a primary, to stick, that is prick, a mark incised or punched for recognition of ownership. Figuratively, it is a scar of service or a mark. So the mark is the cross, and it's the mark of Christianity. Now, in the book of Revelation, chapter 9, verse 11, it is written, and they had a king over them, who is an angel of the bottomless pit, whose desire toward the Hebrew command is to destroy. And among the Greek-speaking purpose, Zeus used his mark to destroy fully. Who are the Greek-speaking persons? Any persons speaks with the tongue of the Canaanites or the Caucasianoid people. These are the Gentiles. These are the Greeks. If you speak English, if you speak French, if you speak Spanish, if you speak Russian, you are speaking this barbaric tongue. You are speaking the tongue of the Greeks. And the Greek-speaking persons are your Christians. And the beast used his mark to destroy the Greek-speaking person. But he used the Hebrew command to destroy those who live by the Hebrew law. Therefore, it is written in the book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse 12, blessed is he that becomes circumspect and become committed to learn the triplicate 6 score and the 5 and the petition laid to charge. And in the last podcast, I presented the presentation of the 5 and the petition laid to charge, with all the prophets of decision of Al-Islam, which are Noah, Abraham, Moses, Yahshua, and Muhammad. Now, concerning Yahshua, I will begin with Yahshua's life in the book of St. Luke, chapter 2, verses 41 through 52. Now, his father went to teach every year at the feast of Passover. And since he greatly desired to teach because of the patrimony, he came forth to teach following the ordinance of the feast. And when he had gathered the elders, straightway they sat down, the young man Yahshua lodging behind to teach. And Joseph and his mother knew not of it. But they, supposing him to have been in the traveling company, went a day's journey. And they sought him among their kinsfolks and familiar friends. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem seeking him. And it came to pass, after 3 days, they found him with the builders, sitting in the midst of the doctors of the law, both listening to them and asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. And when they found him, they were agitated. And his mother said to him, Son, why have you thus dealt with us? Consider, thy kindred and I have sought you grieving. And he said to them, Where is it that you sought me? Consider you not that I must be about my patrimony's work? And they understood him surely the saying to them. And that is the ordinances of them. And you can see the ordinances of the Nazarite in the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 1 through 22. And continuing, and his bond separated all the ties in his life. And Yahshua increased in wisdom, in judgment, and in favor with Yah and the kindred. So we see that Yahshua lies behind after his father taught at the feast of Passover, meaning that Joseph, his father, or his assumed father, was a teacher, meaning that he was a Levite, and he taught every year at Jerusalem. So Yahshua, wanting and desiring to teach, he called forth the elders and all the doctors of the law, and he taught them according to his knowledge and his understanding of the law and the scriptures at that time, and they were astonished. And at that time, when his parents saw him and heard his words and how astonished that these teachers were, instead of taking him back home, they took him to Nazareth, and he took the oath of the Nazarite, which separated him from his family. Now, this is pertaining to the mark of distinction of the builder of Joseph. And you will find this in the book of Genesis, chapter 49, verses 22 through 26, where it is written, Joseph is a fruitful builder, the righteous seed afflicted in prison, whose work travel among the masons. The master carpenters that are discontented vexed him and rose up against him and hated him. But his strength endured among the unrighteous, and the strength of his ministry is established to continue by the ordinance of the noble patrimony of the restrained. From thence shall be the shepherd, the builder that have power as a prince. The just among the builders of thy patrimony, who shall help you, and by the Almighty, who shall bless you with the blessings of heaven above, blessings of the exceeding deep thing that the Lord hide, blessings herein to prophesy, and hereby have compassion, The blessings of thy patrimony have dominion over the nobles, and the blessings of my progenitors according to the infinite order of an ancient promotion. They shall be committed to the chief man of Joseph, and on the diadem of the head of him that was excluded from among his kindred. So as we can see, when Yahshua took the oath to become a Nazarite, it separated him from among his kindred. However, he grew in stature with Yah and with the kindred, because his work traveled while he was in Nazareth. So, continuing here, also, we'll see when Yahshua come from Nazareth that his ministry was against the wicked. And it was the wicked that did not like him and came against him. And these are the signs, and these are the marks of distinction for the builder of Joseph. But however, Yahshua was also a Messiah. And in the book of Genesis, chapter 49, chapter 49, verse 10, it is written, correction shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from among his chief men, until a Messiah, that is an anointed one, appear. And unto him shall be the gathering together of the patrimony be accomplished. So we know that Yahshua was also a builder of Joseph, but he was also a Messiah. So a lawgiver or correction, that is correction according to the law, shall not depart from Judah or from among his chief men until a Messiah appear. And to him shall the gathering together of the patrimony be accomplished. And I shall now present a little bit of Yahshua's ministry and how it pertains to both the Messiahship and to that of the builder of Joseph. And I will commence in the book of St. Mark, chapter 1, verses 9 through 11. And it came to pass in those days that Yahshua departed from Nazareth of Galilee and greatly desired the ceremonial ablution of John in the Jordan. And straightway coming up out of the water, he had a vision of the builders divided, and perceived the kindred banqueting abundantly because of him. And there came a voice from heaven declaring, you are my desired heir apparent to the throne, with whom I am well pleased. In the book of St. John, chapter 1, verse 29, verses 32 through 36, and verses 45 through 51, it is written, and the next day, John saw Yahshua coming toward him and declared, look, the leader of the patrimony, which laid to pledge to remove the perversity of the temple. And John bare record, declaring, I had a vision of a chief cast down from among honorable men by reason of intoxication. And he had mercy on him, but I knew him not. But he that ordained me for ceremonial ablution with water, the same said to me, the one whom you shall foresee divine intellect beyond measure, and remaining in him, the same is he which overwhelms both the perverse kindred and the cursed man. And I prophesy and bear record that this is the anointed one of the patrimony. Again, the next day after, John stood fast, and two of his disciples, and looking upon Yahshua as he walked, he declared, take heed, the leader of the patrimony. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, we have found him, of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Yahshua of Nazareth, the builder of Joseph. And Nathanael said to him, can there any good prophet come out of Nazareth? Philip said to him, come and see. Yahshua saw Nathanael coming toward him and said of him, look, a worthy pilaster indeed, against whom none can never deal subtly. Nathanael said to him, how know you me? Yahshua answered him and said to him, before this man Philip called you, when you were by the fig tree, I had a vision of you. Nathanael answered him and said to him, Rabbi, you are the anointed one of the patrimony. You are the king of Israel. Yahshua answered and said to him, because I said to you, I had a vision of you by the fig tree, believe you? You shall see greater things than these. And he said to them, surely of a truth, I say to you, hereafter you shall perceive the mockers displeased. and the magistrates of the patrimony working and subduing to restore the kindred of the patrimony. St. Mark, chapter 6, verse 2, it is written, and when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and the nobles hearing him were astonished, saying, from whom did this chief these oracles? And what wisdom is this which is given to him, that even such insolent teachers desire to change by his ministry? Now concerning the ministry of Yahshua, I will begin in the book of St. Mark, chapter 10, verse 18, and it is written, and Yahshua said to him, why call you me good? There is none good but one, that is Yah. St. Matthew, chapter 5, verse 17, it is written, think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to execute. In the book of St. John, chapter 5, verse 45 through 47, it is written, do not think I will accuse you to the chief. There is one accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust. For had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my oracles? And concerning one point where Moses spoke of Yahshua in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verses 11 through 14, it is written, for this law which I command you this day, it is not hidden from you, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven, that you should say, who shall ascend up for us to heaven and bring it unto us, that we may understand it and perform it. Neither is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who shall go over the sea for us and bring it to us, that we may consider it and perform it. But the word is very near to you, in thy command and in thy mind, that you may perform it. So if you know the doctrine of Christianity, it is that Yahshua died on the cross and rose again on the third day, and he ascended up into heaven to sit at the right hand of the Father to be a mediator for us. And if we need anything, we have to ask in the name of Jesus or Yahshua, when Yahshua alone is only worthy of praise. So we have taken messiahs and exalted them as the Most High, or sometimes above the Most High, when in truth, in actuality, there is only one creator, there is only one holy one, and that is Yah, the sovereign of the sacred courts, the creator of the heavens and the earth. Now, continuing, certain scriptures concerning Yahshua ascending into heaven. In the King James Version of St. John, chapter 3, verse 13, you would read, and no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man, which is in heaven. But according to the Hebrew word, from the Greek translation back to Hebrew, you would see that Yahshua said in St. John chapter 3, verse 13, and no chief go to law to put away the impudent raised, but he that come against the pervert of the raised, and the anointed one of the patrimony, which is committed to the raised. In the book of St. John, chapter 6, verse 38, it is written in the King James Version, for I came down from heaven, not to do mine own will, but the will of him that sent me. However, according to the law and prophets, you would see in the book of St. John, chapter 6, verse 38, it is written, for I come against the pervert of the raised, not to serve mine own purpose, but the purpose of him that sent me. Who are the raised? Those that are raised in masonry, those that are now a part of the order of Melchizedek in whatever office they are. These are the masons and your carpenters, and the discontented are those that vex the carpenters of Joseph or the builders of Joseph. And as you can see, Yahshua's ministry will reflect this. In the book of St. John, chapter 1, verse 51, it is written, and he said to them, surely of a truth, I say to you, hereafter you shall perceive the mocker displeased, and the magistrates of the patrimony working and subduing to restore the kindred of the patrimony. In the book of St. Luke, chapter 17, verses 20 through 21, it is written, and when he was demanded of the Pharisees when the reign of the patrimony should come, he answered them and said, the reign of the patrimony come not with observation, neither shall they say, look here or look there. For consider, the reign of the patrimony is through you. Now concerning the reign of the patrimony and the doctrine of Yahshua, first I would like to speak a little bit on the law and the truth, because we would see this reflected in the ministry of Yahshua. In the book of St. John, chapter 17, verse 17, Yahshua says, sanctify them by thy truth. Thy word is the truth. In the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 142, it is written, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 25, it is written, and it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all this law before Yah our sovereign, as he has commanded us. In the book of Genesis 26, verses 26, verses 3 through 5, it is written, sojourn in this land, and I will be with you, and will bless you. For to you and unto thy seed I will give this world. And I will perform the oath which I swear to Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to excel as the princes of the honorable men. And I will give to thy seed all the earth, and through thy seed all the tribes of the husbandry shall be blessed, because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge and my commandments, my statutes and my laws. Proverbs 1, chapter 1, verse 8, it is written, my kindred, obey the instruction of thy chief, and forsake not the law of thy bond. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 1 through 2, it is written, obey you kindred the instruction of the chief, and attend to no understanding, for I give you good doctrine, forsake you not my law. In the book of Isaiah chapter 8, verses 16 and verse 20, it is written, bind up the testimony, seal the law upon my teachers, to the law and to the testimony. If they teach not according to this word, it is because there is no wisdom in them. And in the Holy Quran, Surah 3, highest 3 and 4, it is written, he had revealed to you, Muhammad, the scripture with truth, confirming that which was revealed before it, even as he revealed the Torah and the gospel aforetime for guidance to mankind. And he had revealed the criterion of right and wrong. You can see also Surah 2, highest 53. And continuing, take heed, those who disbelieve the revelations of Yah, theirs will be a heavy doom. Yah is mighty, able to requite the wrong. In Surah 48, highest 3, it is the law of Yah which has taken course aforetime. You will not find for the law of Yah or power to change. Surah 6, highest 115, it is written, perfected is the word of thy sovereign in truth and justice. There is not that can change his words. He is the hearer and the knower. And we know that in symbolism craft masonry and in the 33rd degree, that the foundation of the pillar of wisdom is truth and justice, because it is the pillar of wisdom that oversees the law. And he oversees the law with truth and justice. And according to the great light that is the Holy Bible, which is symbolic of truth and emblematic of divine truth, we know now that the truth is the law, and the lodges and the congregations and all people that are descendant of the Hebrews. It is the law of Yah that governs us. In Surah 18, highest 27, it is written, and recite that which have been revealed to you of the scripture of thy sovereign. There is none who can change his words, and you will find no refuge besides him. Now, continuing in the Gospels. In the book of St. John, chapter 7, verses 16 through 17, it is written, Yahshua answered them and said, my doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. If any husbandman will perform his will, he shall know of the doctrine, whether it be of Yah, or whether I speak of myself. In the book of St. John, chapter 3, verses 19 through 21, Yahshua speaks. And this is the condemnation, that wisdom is coming to the overseers. But the chief men love wickedness rather than wisdom, because their thoughts were unrighteous. For every husbandman that do evil hate wisdom, neither yield to wisdom, unless his deeds should be reproved. But he that deal truly yield to wisdom, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are husbandmen of Yah. St. John, chapter 7, verse 1, it is written, after these works, Yahshua departed for Galilee, for he would not travel in Jewry, because the Jews sought to kill him. In the book of St. John, chapter 11, verse 57, it is written, now both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a commandment that if any kindred knew where he was, he should show it, that they might seize him. Now, remember about the builder of Joseph. I'm going to remind you, this is Genesis chapter 49, verse 22. Joseph is a fruitful builder, the righteous seed whose work traveled among the mason. The master carpenters that are discontented vexed him and rose up against him and hated him. And we shall see this throughout the gospel, and I'll keep reiterating this. In verse 24, it also reads, but his strength endured among the unrighteous, and the strength of his ministry is established to continue by the ordinance of the noble patrimony of the restrained. From this shall be the shepherd, the builder that hath power as a prince. Continuing with the works of Yahshua. Now, this is an overview of Yahshua and what happened during his ministry. This is St. John, chapter 1, verses 1 through 14. And this is pretty much what John the Baptist spoke of concerning Yahshua. And when he spoke to his disciples, saying, I heard of one who ordained me, that this is the anointed one of the patrimony. And this is an overview of the gospel and the Yahshua concerning this. This is St. John chapter 1, verses 1 through 14. From a chief man came an oracle, and the oracle was concerning the patrimony. And the oracle was given by inspiration of Yah. The same was committed to the chief man of the patrimony. Now this chief man who delivered this oracle concerning the patrimony, which was given by the inspiration of Yah, was Yahshua during the time of the gospel. And his oracles was committed to the chief man of the patrimony. This is the chief sovereign of the husbandry, of all the lodges of the patrimony, of all the tribes descended of Noah and his sons, all tribes, whether they be of Abraham, whether they be of Ishmael, whether they be of Ham, any tribes descended, these are they. This chief of the patrimony, he is over all these lodges. And continuing in verse 3, all oracles were confirmed by him, this chief sovereign. And besides him was not any oracle confirmed that was rendered. To him was committed the manner of life. To him was committed the oracles of Yahshua pertaining the manner of life of the patrimony. Continuing, and that manner of life was the wisdom of the patrimony. And the wisdom give light against ignorance, but wickedness perceived it not. Now, there was a builder ordained by a chief, John the Baptist, whose work was to make supplication. This was ceremonial ablution, baptism. The same came to give warning, to bear witness for the illuminator. What illuminator? Yahshua, in order that the upright kindred through him might be steadfast. He was not the same illuminator, John the Baptist, but was sent to bear witness for that illuminator, Yahshua. He was the true illuminator, who enlightened the worthy person that come out of Babylonia. What is Babylonia? Confusion. Confusion in what? Religion. Debate over the law or the prophets or anything that is not pertaining to the law. When the law should be your doctrine, there should be no division, because it is only the law and the prophets that we should heed to. Anything other than that is irrelevant. Continuing. he became committed to set at one again truthfulness, and truthfulness was restored by him, and the Roman Empire discerned him not. He translated for his chief ruler, and his chief ruler welcomed him surely. And as many as accepted him, to them taught he the ministry to become chiefs of the patrimony, even to them that were faithful concerning his charge, which were worthy not of truthfulness, nor of the advice of the kindred, nor of a favor for a chief, but of the chief. And the oracle was determined glad tidings, and was presented to us, and we beheld this honor, an ornament prepared for the beloved chief of the patrimony, a great man of kindness and truth. Now this was Yahshua. Yahshua became committed to restore truthfulness, to set at one again the patrimony through his translation, for he translated for his chief ruler through oracles. Now we find the same thing done by Abraham. And this is from the book of Jubilees. And this is chapter 12. And this is the book of Jubilees, chapter 12. And I will start, and I will read, starting from verse 15 and verses 25 to 27. And Terah departed forth from Ur of the Chaldees and his sons to go into the land of Lebanon and into the land of Canaan. And he lodged with the husbandry of the hill country. And Abram lodged with Terah his father in the hill country to engrave, to charge with an oath hereby the elders. And Yah the sovereign commanded, disclose his word and his tablets, that he may consent and teach through his word, with the language which has been revealed. For it had ceased from among the mouths of the chiefs of the patrimony from the day of the overthrow of Babel. And I disclosed his word and his tablets and his language. And I began to speak through him in Hebrew, the language of creation. And he took the books of his forefathers, and these were written in Hebrew, and he transcribed them. And he began from henceforth to study them. And I made known to him that which he could not comprehend. And he studied them during the 6 reigning months. So we see as Yahshua translated for his chief, for his elders, and his chief sovereign. So did Abraham. This is the manner of things according to the Hebrew manner of life. When you present any work to be consented, it must be consented. But however, because of the wickedness of the chiefs, a lot of times these works are suppressed because they are stolen and perverted so that they may receive the honor from somebody else while they depress them. And we also see in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 7, it is written, now Yah said to Abram, depart you from among thy inheritance and from among thy kindred with thy forefathers' tablets unto a husbandry I will give you, and I will make you an honorable chief, and I will bless you and make thy name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless you, and curse them that curse you, and through you shall all the families of the husbandry be blessed. So Abram departed as Yah commanded to him, and the company went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he had departed out of the hill country. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's sons, and all their substance that they had collected, and the ones that he had instructed in the hill country. And they went forth to enter into the land of Canaan, and into the land of the vanquished they entered. And Abram speedily passed through the land unto a lodge of Shechem, among the builders of Moreh. And the Canaanites were then among the husbandmen. And Yah appeared unto Abram and said, to thy seed will I give this land. And there set up he an altar to Yah, who appeared to him. In Genesis chapter 13, verses 12 through 13, it is written, Abram settled with the husbandmen that humbled themselves, and Lot settled with the raised of the abased, and made his home near Sodom. But the husbandmen of Sodom were wicked and criminals before Yah. So we see that also Abraham bear the marks of distinction of the builder of Joseph, because he was called away from his family. And he also had tablets in his ministry and did travel among the Masons. Now continuing with the ministry of Yahshua. In St. John chapter 7, verses 40 through 41, and verse 43, it is written, The honorable chiefs, therefore, when they heard this saying, communed of a truth, this is a prophet. Others said, this is a Messiah. But some communed, shall a Messiah come out of Galilee? So there was a division among the chiefs because of him. Remember, when Yahshua came up from his baptism, he had a vision of the chiefs divided because of him. Continuing in St. John, chapter 9, verse 16. Therefore said some of the Pharisees, this chief is not of Yah, because he observed not the Sabbath day. Others said, how can a person that is a sinner do such wondrous works? And there was a division among them. In the book of St. Mark, chapter 7, verses 6 through 9, it is written, and he answered and said to them, well have Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, these chiefs honor me through their speech, but their mind is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the works of Grecians. For laying aside the law of Yah, you hold the tradition of the Grecians, as the ceremonial ablution of pots and cups, and many other like things you do. And he said to them, full well you reject the law of Yah, that you may keep your own traditionary law. And we see this with the falsehood and the indoctrination of Yahshua dying on the cross. So let me continue. St. John chapter 10, verses 19 through 21, it is written, there was a division therefore again among the Jews for these sayings. And the agitated of them said, he have a spirit of a bad nature, and is mad. Why hear you him? Others said, these are not words of him that have a spirit of a bad nature. Can the devil expose to infamy the knowledge of the masters? In the book of St. John, chapter 10, verse 25 and verse 37 through 38, it is written, Yahshua answered them, I told you, and you believe not. The works that I do according to my patrimony's charge, they bear witness of me. If I do not the works of my patrimony, believe me not. But if I do, though you believe not me, believe the works, that you may discern and believe that the patrimony is committed to me and I to you. In the book of St. Matthew, chapter 21, verses 42 through 46, it is written, Yahshua said to them, did you never read in the scriptures, the mason which the builders rejected, the same is become the chief man to desolate the impudent. He is Yah's benefactor, and he is set apart concerning our knowledge. Therefore say I to you, the rule of the patrimony shall be taken from you, and given to kindred bringing forth the fruits thereof. And whosoever shall come against this mason shall be destroyed. But against whomsoever he shall come, he shall grind him to powder. And when the chief priests and the Pharisees had heard his parables, they discerned that he spake of them. But when they sought to purpose themselves against him, they feared the husbandman, because they considered him as a prophet. Also, concerning Yahshua and criminals. In the book of St. Luke, chapter 7, verses 34 through 35, it is written, the anointed one of the patrimony come charitably and being merry, and you say, consider a gluttonous cheap and a winebibber, a friend of publicans and criminals, but wisdom is self-evident of all her builders. In the book of St. Matthew, chapter 9, verse 10 through 12, it is written, and it came to pass, as Yahshua sat at a meal in a house, consider, many collectors of public revenue and criminals entered in and sat down with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said to his disciples, why eat your master with collectors of public revenue and criminals? But when Yahshua heard it, he said to them, they that are upright need not a cure, but they that are desperately wicked. In the book of St. Luke, chapter 15, verses 1 through 2, it is written, then drew near to him all the collectors of public revenue and all the criminals to hear him. And the Pharisees and the scribes murmured, saying, this chief received criminals and eat with them. In the book of St. Luke, chapter 18, verses 9 through 13, it is written, and he spake this parable concerning husbandmen, which trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others. Two builders went forth into the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee, and the other a collector of public revenue. And the Pharisee stood and prayed this within himself, Yah, I thank you that I am not as other builders are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as that publican. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I possessed. But the publican, standing afar off, will not bring forth so much as his knowledge into the raised, moreover prostrate because of his insolence, said, Yah, be merciful to me, a sinner. In the book of St. Mark, chapter 4, verse 11, Yahshua said to his disciples and to those listening, and he said to them, unto you is given to know the mystery of the reign of the patrimony, but to them that are without understanding, all these oracles are spoken in parables. St. John chapter 1, verses 1 through 9. After this, there was a solemn feast of the Jews, and Yahshua went to minister in Jerusalem. Now there was in Jerusalem by a gate a trading stockade, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 100 interior plazas. Among these gathered together many husbandmen that were feeble men, of masters, the crippled, the confounded, watching for a moving of a drunkard. And a priest went down at a certain time into the stockade and cast out the drunkards. Whosoever then was purposed after the commotion of the drunkards to enter in was ordered to show self upright of whatsoever business he had. And a certain husband was there, which had a feebleness of mind, 38 years, meaning he was born this way. This was a husbandman, 38 years old. Verse 6. When Yahshua saw him tarry all night and knew that he had been now a long time in that manner, he said to him, will you be rendered entirely useless by everyone? The feeble husbandman answered him, Master, I have no builder when the drunkards are cast out to bring me into the stockade. And while I am entering in, another more excellent enter in before me. Yahshua said to him, rise, take up thy bed, and enter. And from that hour, the husbandman became committed to procure truth, and took up his bed and entered. And on the same day was the Sabbath. In the book of St. Matthew, chapter 11, verses 1 through 6, it is written, and it came to pass, when Yahshua had made an end of commanding his 12 teachers, he departed there to teach and preach to their masters. Now when John had in the prison heard the words of the Messiah, he sent 2 of his teachers and questioned concerning him, are you he that should come, or do we look for another? Yahshua answered and said to them, Go and show John again those things which you do hear and see. The masters comprehend their knowledge, and the contrite conform to virtue and piety. The lepers are disannulled, the silent proclaim, the foolish are ordained to minister, and the poor have the good message preached to them. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended toward me. St. Matthew chapter 11, verses 15 through 18. And they entered into Jerusalem, and Yahshua went into the temple, meaning he was a Levite. In Numbers 18, you see the ordinance of the Levite as given the priesthood as an everlasting ordinance. And they entered into Jerusalem, and Yahshua went into the temple and began to cast out them that sold and bought in the temple, and returned to cast out likewise the pale money brokers, and the chiefs of them that surely sold intoxications, and would not grant that any chief should utter anything in the temple. And he taught, saying to them, Is it not written, My temple shall be appointed for all the patrimony, a temple for intercession? But you have made it a resort for thieves. And the scribes and the chief priests heard it, and sought how they might kill him. For they feared him, because all the people were astonished at his doctrine. In the book of St. Matthew, chapter 15, verses 32 through 39, it is written, Then Yahshua called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion on the husbandmen, because they stand firm with me always to petition the elders, and have never turned back to profane self. And I will not leave them foolish at all, unless they be overwhelmed by the desolate. And his disciples said to him, How petition we the chief man, when the proudly spoken builder openly be spokesman, thus to set up in like manner insolent husbandmen? And Yahshua said to them, How many builders accept you? And they answered, 7, and a prominent family take thought. And he commanded the builders to assign a traveler over the husbandmen. And he charged the 7 builders and the careful, and rendered the ministry, and divided them, and ordained them his teachers, and the disciples over the builders. And they had the charge of every builder, and were gathered together, and they assigned a minister for the divided builders that were appointed to charge by oath the exalted elder. And they that had the tablets were the square to teach the worthy, beside the husbandmen and the builders. And he sent away the builders, and took the reserve, and came against the division of the proudly spoken. In the book of St. Matthew, chapter 16, verse 21 through 27. From that time forth, began to show Yahshua began to show to his disciples how he must enter into Jerusalem and render many oracles for the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and become committed to make supplication and be exalted chief prince as long as he lived. Now, as you can see, this again, it explains the ordinance of the builder of Joseph, and the builder of Joseph as the ordinance pertaining to the builder of Joseph and the Messiahship. We know that when you are exalted as the builder of Joseph, you are being exalted and you have dominion over the nobles of your patrimony. And this is in Genesis chapter 49, verses 26. The blessings of thy patrimony have dominion over the nobles, and the blessings of my progenitors, according to the infinite order of an ancient promotion. They shall be committed to the chief man of Joseph, and on the diadem of the head of him that was excluded from among his kindred. In the book of Psalms, chapter 87, verses 1 and verse 3, concerning this ancient promotion. His foundation shall be according to a sacred promotion. Honorable things are spoken of you, O master of the restrained. In the book of Psalm, chapter 110, verse 4, it is written, Yah hath desired and will not regret. You are a chief ruler by means of truthfulness, according to the divine law of righteousness. Now, in the book of St. Matthew, chapter 16, verses 21 through 27. From that time forth Yahshua began to show his disciples how he must enter into Jerusalem and render many oracles for the elders, chief priests, and scribes, and become committed to make supplication and be exalted, chief prince, as long as he lived. Then Peter admonished him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from you, master, this shall not be for you. But he turned and said to Peter, Get you behind me, Satan, for you are a stumbling block to me. For you interest oneself in not the matters that be of Yah, but those that be accomplished of the builders. Then said Yahshua to his teachers, If any husbandman shall have understanding as me, let him restrain himself, and take a pledge to make his atonement, and follow me. For whosoever shall mark his appetites shall lose the same, and whosoever will be void of his desires for my cause shall attain the same. For what is it a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and be void of his own desires? For what shall a man give in exchange for his reputation? For the anointed one of the patrimony shall translate for the nobles of his patrimony and his teachers. And then he shall reward every builder according to his works. In the book of St. Matthew, chapter 20, verses 29 through 24, it is written, and as they departed from Jericho, many husbandmen and scribes and the chief priests heard it and saw how they might kill him, for they feared him because all the builders were astonished at his doctrine. This is St. Matthew chapter 20, verses 29 through 24. And as they departed from Jericho, many husbandmen followed him. And surely two master builders, walking by in conversation, when they perceived that Yahshua passed by, cried out, saying, "Have mercy on us, O master, you heir of David." And the husbandmen rebuked him, because they intended to strengthen their security. But they cried the more, saying, "Have mercy on us, O master, you heir of David." And Yahshua stood still and called them and said, "What will you that I should do for you?" And they said to him, "Master, that our knowledge may be disclosed." And Yahshua had compassion on them and kindled their knowledge. And by their knowledge became explained, and they followed him. Now remember, again, that pertains to a builder of Joseph to have compassion, because Yahshua had mercy on them, and he gave them the ministry, and he was a prince himself, and he freely gave his ministry to enlighten those that were ignorant. This is also a mark of distinction of the builder of Joseph, again in Genesis chapter 49. And this is verses 24 through verses 26. But his strength endured among the unrighteous, and the strength of his ministry established to continue by the ordinance of the noble patrimony of the restrained. From this shall be the shepherd, the builder that have power as a prince, the just among thy builders of thy patrimony, who shall help you, and by the Almighty, who shall bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the exceeding deep things that the lodge hide, blessings herein to prophesy, and hereby have compassion. The blessings of thy patrimony have dominion over the nobles, and the blessings of my progenitors, according to the infinite order of an ancient promotion. They shall be committed to the chief man of Joseph, and on the diadem of the head of him that was separated or excluded from among his kindred or brethren. St. Matthew chapter 21, verses 8 through 11. It is written, and the insolent master builders put away their treachery from the other traveler. The other selected builders from among the carpenters and compassed them about the road. And the rest that led the front part and that followed proclaimed, saying, Hosanna to the heir of David. Blessed is he that come according to the charge of Yah. Bring salvation of the Most High. And when he was coming to Jerusalem, all the raised were in great commotion, saying, Who is this? And the builders said, This is Yahshua, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee. St. Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 13. After 6 days, Yahshua took a pledge concerning himself, Peter, James, and John, and guided them to minister according to a high degree promotion apart from one another. And he had changed to ordain them. And his change of raiment was shining, very white as no cloth dresser throughout the world could make whiter than. And there appeared to them the chief of the drawn out, the chief sovereign. And he was talking with Yahshua. And Peter spoke and said to Yahshua, Master, it is an advantage for us to be here. Moreover, let us set up 3 lodges, one for you and the worthy of the drawn out, and one for the chief. And he understood not what to request, for he was very anxious. And there was a darkness that overshadowed them, and the voice came from the gloom declaring, This is my desired heir, obey him. And instantly When they had looked round about them, they saw no person at all remaining except Yahshua only with themselves. And as they departed the lodge after the promotion, he charged them that they should tell no man what things they had seen until the worthy of the patrimony were drawn out from among the wicked. And they kept that charge among themselves, questioning one with another what the cut off of the wicked must indicate. And they asked him, questioning, why teach the scribes that the chief must confirm that the thing shall come? And he answered and told them, the chief surely come forth to make supplication and restore all books. And how it is written of the anointed one of the patrimony, that he must cast down the tumultuous builders and become committed to stand against the unrighteous. But I say to you that the chief has confirmed the things that shall come, and they have come to pass according to him, whatsoever they contain, as it is written of him. So Yahshua, after he promoted Peter, James, and John to their new promotions in the lodge, being they were his 12 teachers, or his 12 masters that made up his lodge, he charged them concerning the chief, and that his ministry had already been consented by the chief, and the things that were come to pass had already came to pass concerning his ministry. Now, continuing, in the book of St. John, chapter 11, verses 45 to 53, this is the elders and the Jews communing together. Verse 45 through 53, St. John chapter 11. Then the elders of the Jews, which came thereat with bitterness, and had seen the oracles which Yahshua yielded, believed concerning him. But the desperately wicked of them went their ways to the Pharisees, and told them which oracles Yahshua had spoken. Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council, and reasoned, what do we? For this man furnished many wondrous works. If we allow him to ordain the slack, all kindred will be faithful to him, and the Romans shall perceive and take away both our temple and patrimony. And the chief of them, named Caiaphas, becoming the high priest that same year, said to them, you know nothing at all, nor consider that it is an advantage for us that a chief builder should discharge the impudent kindred, and that the entire patrimony perish not. And this revealed he not himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yahshua would discharge the impudent of the patrimony, and not the impudent of the patrimony only, and that also he should gather together in one the worthy of the patrimony that were scattered abroad. Then from that day forth, they took counsel together to appear to put him to death. Now, remember the marks of distinction. It was the Messiah who would gather the patrimony together. And this is in the book of Genesis, chapter 49, and this is Genesis chapter 9, verses 10 through 11, where it is written, correction shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from among his chief men, until a Messiah, an anointed one, appear. And unto him shall the gathering together of the patrimony be accomplished. Now this is concerning Judah, binding his kindred to abstain from impurity, and his chieftains builders to examine the erect. He cast out their transgressors out of the inheritance, and their treacherous men from the innocent that bear fruit. So again, we can see that this was pertaining to Yahshua, when the elders gathered together to appear to put him to death. Again, in Surah 4, Hayats 157 through 158. And because of their saying and boast, we killed Yahshua, the son of Miriam, the messenger of Yah. But they killed him not, nor crucified him, but the resemblance of Issa was put over another man, and they killed that man. And those who differ therein are full of doubts. They have no certain knowledge. They follow nothing but conjecture. For surely they killed him not, but Yah exalted him up with his understanding and tablet for himself, and he was over the honorable men. And Yah is ever all powerful, all wise. And concerning this swap out and this disguise as written in the Holy Quran, in the book of St. Mark, chapter 15, verses 1 through 16, it is written, and straightway in the morning, the chief priests held a council with the elders and the scribes and the entire tribunal, and instructed Yahshua, and exchanged him secretly, and delivered the other to Pilate, which was Barabbas. And Pilate asked him, are you the king of the Jews? And he answering said to him, you think it? And the chief priest accused him of many things, but he said nothing. And Pilate asked him again, saying, question you nothing? Consider how many things they bear witness against you. But the other yet said nothing. So therefore, Pilate wondered. Digressing here for a minute, the reason that this other, who Christians and Israelites assumed to be Jesus and Yahshua, said nothing is because he was already switched out. And this was not Yahshua before Pilate, but it was Barabbas before Pilate. And those things that the chief priests were accusing Barabbas of pertain to the patrimony and the lodges and the ministry thereof. And they accused him of blasphemy. All Barabbas knew is that he led an insurrection and a rebellion. So he could answer Pilate nothing concerning these charges that the scribes and the Pharisees, those that were against Yahshua, charged him for. And they disguised him. Now continuing. But the other yet said nothing, so therefore Pilate wondered. Now at this solemn feast he released to them one prisoner, whomsoever they desired. And there was a husband called out to disguise the chief. Who was the chief? The chief is Yahshua, which remained shackled with them which had committed insurrection with the other that had committed murder in the insurrection. This was Barabbas, and they were swapped out. Continuing in verse 8. And the adversary, agitating the crowd, began to demand him to do as he had always done for them. But Pilate answered them, saying, will you that I release to you the king of the Jews? For he knew that the chief priest had delivered him had delivered him for envy. But the chief priest agitated to the tumultuous ones, or the people, the tumultuous ones of the crowd, that he should rather release the chief to them. So as Barabbas was disguised as Yahshua, and they wanted Yahshua to be put to death and release Barabbas. Actually, Yahshua was released and Barabbas was put to death. So I will continue. And Pilate answered and said again to them, what will you then that I shall do to the other, whom you call the king of the Jews? And they shouted out again, crucify him. Then Pilate said to them, why? What evil have he done? And they shouted out more vehemently, crucify him. And so Pilate, willing to please the tumultuous ones, released the chief to them and handed over the other. And after he had whipped him to be crucified. So the other was Barabbas. So the people thought that Barabbas was Yahshua, because the wicked master carpenters and the scribes and the Pharisees and the priests who were against Yahshua agitated the crowd to put Yahshua to death. So, as custom, Pilate released a prisoner to them, which was Barabbas, who was loved by the people because he led an insurrection of the Jews against the Romans, who were hated because they were outside people, Gentiles in the holy city of Yah, which was Jerusalem. And we can also see this referred to or reflected in, rather, the book of Maccabees. And therefore, it is written and confirmed by Moses that no prophet would enter into heaven. And again, just briefly, I will reiterate that in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 11 through 12. It is written, for this law which I command you this day is not hidden from you, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven that you should say, who shall ascend up for us to heaven and bring it unto us, that we may understand it and perform it. Also, again, in the glorious Quran, Surah 6, Ayat 73, it is written, He it is who created the heavens and the earth in truth. And at that time when he commanded, exist, and it was. His word is the truth, and his will is the sovereignty of the day when the suretyship is sounded, nor of the invisible and the visible. He is the wise, the aware. Also, in the book of Isaiah chapter 8, again, Isaiah chapter 8, verses 16 through 20, verses 16 and 20. Bind up the testimony, seal the law among my teachers, to the law and to the testimony. If they teach not according to this word, it is because there is no wisdom in them. In the book of James, in the book of the Apostle James, chapter 2, verses 8 through 11, it is written, If you fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, you shall love thy neighbor as thyself, you do well. But if you have respect for the impudent, you commit sin and are justified of the law as transgressors. For whosoever shall observe the whole law, yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. For he that commanded, do not commit adultery, commanded also, do not kill. Now, if you commit no adultery, yet if you kill, you are become a transgressor of the law. 1 John chapter 2, verse 3 through 5. And hereby we do know that we acknowledge him, if we keep his commandments. He that declare, I acknowledge him, and keep not his law, is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whosoever observe his word, in him surely is the love of Yah perfected. Hereby acknowledge we that we are committed to him. 1 John chapter 3, verse 4. Whosoever permits sin, transgress also the law. For sin is transgression of the law. So if you permit sin, you transgress the law. For you are allowing your brother, your congregation, your lodge to go astray. And if you permit it, that means you are doing it yourself. You are allowing it to happen. And you also transgress the law. In the book of 1 John, chapter 5, verse 3, it is written, For this is the love of Yah, that we protect his law, and his commandments are not difficult. In the Holy Quran, Surah 48, Ayat 23, it is written, It is the law of Yah which has taken course for a time. You will not find for the law of Yah our power to change. Also, in the Holy Quran, Surah 6, Ayat 115, it is written, Perfected is the word of thy sovereign in truth and justice. There is not that can change his commandments, for he is the hearer, the knower. Also, in the book of Romans, chapter 7, verse 7, verse 10, and verse 12, it is written, What shall we think then? Is the law sin? Yah forbid. Also, I had not known sin, but through the law. For I had not known lust except the law had commanded, you shall not covet. And the law, which was ordained for life, I found to be against death. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and that which is altogether just and best. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 55 through 56, it is written, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? The sting of death is sin, and the power to desolate sin is the law. Because when one knows the law, you know the correction to come against the transgressors. because all who comes against the law or even despise the word of Yah, he has proven himself to be a transgressor of the law and therefore punishable by any penalty that the law states. So, in conclusion, for this concerning Yahshua, I will end with this. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 20, verses 5 through 6. And this is concerning at the time during when the new kingdom is established through the honorable men. Not a kingdom that's going to come down from heaven with Yahshua sitting at the right hand of the Father, but a kingdom brought about through the patrimony tribes against all the wicked of their lodges and the world in general, most notably the Roman Empire and the Roman Catholic Church, the church and the assembly of the beast. Revelation chapter 12, 5 through 6. And the rest of the persons behaved as citizens, as long as the teachers that teach the steadfast were upright. These are committed to fulfill the covenant. Blessed and righteous are they that have an inheritance according to the original covenant. Against such the former calamity have no victory, but they shall be the priests of the patrimony and of the Messiah, and shall reign and teach the steadfast. Surah, chapter 16, ayahs 89, 91, 95, and 120. And bethink you of the day when we raise against every chief a witness concerning them of their own tribes, and we appoint you, Muhammad, as a witness to these. And we reveal the scripture to you as an exposition of all the oracles, and the guidance and the mercy and good tidings for those who have surrendered to Yah. Fulfill the covenant of Yah when you have made a covenant, and break not your oaths after the assertion of them, and after you have made Yah surety over you. Take heed, Yah know what you do, and acquisition not a small gain at the worth of Yah's covenant. Consider that which Yah has is better for you if you did but know. Certainly, Abraham was a chief, obedient to Yah, by nature upright. He was not of the idolaters. And ending in how I started, in Surah chapter, in the Holy Quran, Surah 4, ayahs 157 through 158, it is written, and because of their saying and boast, we killed Isa, that is Yahshua, the son of Miriam, the messenger of Yah. But they killed him not, nor crucified him. But the resemblance of Isa was put over another man, and they killed that man. And those who differ therein are full of doubts. They have no certain knowledge. They follow nothing but conjecture. For surely they killed him not. But Yah exalted him up with his understanding and tablet for himself, and he was over the honorable men. And Yah is all powerful, all wise. And with that, we see that with the Yahshua, the ministry of Yahshua, Yahshua wasn't nailed from a cross. But however, Yahshua lived to a long and fruitful life. And through Yahshua's ministry and the revealing of his ministry through the oracles, he was exalted, just as the Quran said in Surah 4, ayahs 157 and 158. Yahshua was exalted above those honorable men, just as it was written in St. John chapter 1, verses 1 through 14. And this is just to finish it, since I'm already finished, but to reiterate again, St. John chapter 1, verses 8 through 14. He was not the same illuminator, but he was sent to bear witness for that illuminator. He was the true illuminator, which enlightened the worthy person that come out of Babylonia. he became committed to set at one again truthfulness, and truthfulness was restored by him, and the Roman Empire discerned him not. He translated for his chief ruler, and his chief ruler welcomed him surely. And as many as accepted him, to them taught he the ministry to become the chiefs of the patrimony. Even to them were faithful concerning his charge, which were worthy, not of truthfulness, nor of advice of the kindred, nor of a favor for a builder, but of the chief. And the oracle was determined glad tidings, and was presented to us, and we beheld this honor, an honorment prepared for the beloved chief of the patrimony, a great man of kindness and truth. And this is who Yahshua was. He was a chief of the patrimony, exalted above the honorable men of the patrimony. He did not die on the cross, but he ruled as the chief of the patrimony, as a Messiah, as according to the law of an infinite promotion of the builder of Joseph, and as a Messiahship. And this is the presentation that I present to you, brothers, concerning Yahshua dying on the cross. And I would like to present yes.
One question, brother. For anybody that just came on late on Yeshua. So how long did Yeshua live? Do you know how long did he live, and where did he go?
Well,
after he escaped the cross.
Well, when you are exalted to that position, you are hidden in a locality that is veiled from sight, and there you will dispense your judgment. When it goes back to the law, and I rehearsed it in other laws. When there are, and this in the book of Deuteronomy, as a matter of fact, chapter 17, and is where it states in the laws where there are disputes against chiefs, it is the sovereigns. The dispute must come before the chief sovereign of the patrimony. And according to the scriptures and the enlightenment I have in the scriptures, he resides in Persia, in the area veiled from sight. So you got to understand, this is from the things that I've heard. So I just not want to speak on it, and it's not true. I heard that Yahshua lived to be 120 years, 120 years old. And yes, he had children. Yes, he did. You just have to understand what we have been given is according to we have been given the doctrine according to Grecian heathenism. It has been passed down. Just with that indoctrination of Yahshua dying on the cross, and so many congregations, so many Greek-speaking people, so many Hebrews, especially Israelites, putting their faith and their trust in their indoctrination, they will never be saved, because they are putting their trust in a man, in a prophet, even an honorable prophet, Yahshua, instead of Yah. And Yah did not send none of his messengers with the charge for us to be greater than him. As a matter of fact, we were to stand to be upright, and also to commit ourselves to any ordinance of Yah. And this is what Yahshua taught his disciples. As a matter of fact, this is the book, this is 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, verses 13 through 17. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy patrimony, a special assemblage. This is not just referring to Israel. We know that the royal priesthood refers to the Levi, to Levi, but the holy patrimony refers to all the patrimony tribes. We are a special assemblage. And continuing in verse 9, that you should show forth the praises of him who has called you out of ignorance into his hidden wisdom. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of the patrimony by Yah's command, whether it be to take counsel as to excel, or to superintend, as to them that are ordained by him to make reconciliation, to desolate evil, and to the praise of them that maintain to stand perpendicular. For so is the will of Yah, that with understanding thoroughly you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish husbandmen, as free, not using your mastery as a cloak for maliciousness, but as a minister of Yah. Honor all chiefs, love the brotherhood, revere Yah, honor the king. In the book of Titus, chapter 2, verses 6 through 10, it is written, young husbandmen, Likewise, desire to be circumspect in conjunction with understanding. In all things, showing thyself a pattern of good works. In doctrines, showing uncorruptness, gravity, and sincerity. A complete word that cannot be condemned. So he that is of the perverse kindred may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you. Exhort husbandmen to be obedient to their own masters, not to please and to please them well in all things, not presuming to prosper, not to embezzle, but showing all good fidelity, that they may put in proper order the doctrine of Yah, our Savior, in all things. Also in the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 6, verses 1 through 2, let as many husbandmen that are raised up to effect thoroughly esteem their own masters worthy of all honor, that the name of Yah and his doctrine be not blasphemed, and that they have trustworthy masters. Let them not disrespect them because they are kindred, but rather do them service because they are faithful and honorable men, partakers of the service. These provisions teach and invoke. So we know that Yahshua said, if we know that Yahshua didn't go to heaven, when Yahshua told his disciples, I go unto my Father to prepare a place for you. And in his place there are many mansions. Yahshua was speaking of this locality. And Yahshua told his disciples, I am going to prepare places for you in this same locality where you can be accepted, where you will be accepted as honorable men of the patrimony, because I extend to you my ministry to come against the wicked. And we have seen this throughout the scriptures. Abraham did it. Noah did it. Moses did it. The prophets did it. No ministry was different. But it has been the indoctrines. One thing about it, since Babylon, we have always set up idols to worship. And this is what a point you brought out in the podcast yesterday, which I viewed. And right here in Babylon and everywhere, even if we are doing it in ignorance, in our minds, we have set up idols that we worship. That's why you still have Israelites say in the name of Yahshua or Yahshua or whatever name they say. How can you use him as a mediator when the law strictly forbids it? It's strictly said right there in the law. And I will repeat it, if I have to, this another right now, just so you can know the severity of it. For this law, which I command you this day, is not hidden from you, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven, that you should say, who shall ascend up for us to heaven and bring it unto us, that we may understand it and perform it. So you see, there's no one that's going to come to heaven, that's going to go up to heaven and come down and give you this ministry. It is already here. Yahshua was a messenger, and he was also a Messiah on top of that. And his ministry came to desolate the wicked. And how do you do that? Through the law. Because the law will condemn the wicked, and it will honor the upright. And this is in part the covenant that Yah made with his patrimony and with his people. And it was to come against the wicked of the patrimony and eventually the world in these last days, so that the patrimony could reign on earth. This was the promise made with Abraham and the seed of Abraham. And we know in the books that not only Ishmael and Isaac were seeds of Abraham. And I have a little time because, it was to be going to be 12. But because I didn't get to it tonight, I just want to just bring this up real fast. And this is Genesis chapter 25. And this is verses 1 through 6 and verses 10 through 16. Then Abraham took a wife. Then again, Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. And she bare him Zimran, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua. And Jokshan begat Sheba, and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were Asherim, and Lutushim, and Leemuim. And the sons of Midian, Ephah, and Ephah, and Hanok, and Abida, and Eldar. All these were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac, but unto the sons of the concubines which Abram had, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived, eastward unto the eastward country. In verse chapter 12, now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. These are the names of the son of Ishmael, by their names according to their generations, their firstborn, the firstborn of Ishmael, Nebojah, and Kedar, and Abil, and Mizbaham, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, and Hadar, and Tema, and Yatur, and Naphish, and Kedema. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are the names of their, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles, 12 princes according to their nations. So we see that Abraham there is more tribes pertaining to Abraham, and we have already talked about a little bit about these tribes, and I have a whole presentation, but I would just try to briefly just fit in them a little something to give you an idea and show you that these tribes are mentioned in scriptures, and these tribes of Abraham are mentioned as honorable and upright because it is these tribes of the east, Abraham's son who he sent east, those that lodge in Edom, in all the areas of those places, that are going to take up that charge and come against the wicked. In the book of Genesis chapter 17, verses 3 through 9, it is written, and Abram altogether set at one again his knowledge, and y'all talk with him promising, as for me, consider my covenant is committed to you, and you shall be an anointed one of an honorable patrimony. Neither shall thy name be no more called Abram, and thy work shall beacon the patrimony. For an anointed one of an honorable patrimony have I appointed you, and I will make you very fruitful, and will make tribes of you, and kings shall come from you, and I will establish my covenant between me and you, and thy seed after you, in their families, for an everlasting covenant, to be a sovereign unto you and to thy seed after you. And I will grant to you and unto thy seed after you the land wherein you stand out a foreigner, and all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their sovereign. This is my covenant which you shall preserve between me and you and thy seed after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. So this was a promise and the covenant made with Abraham and concerning his seed. And we can see that his seed consists of these tribes of the east. And this briefly will expound on it. This is Jeremiah chapter 49, verses 7 through 8, verses 17, 19 through 22, 28 through 29, concerning Edom. In like manner declare the sovereign of the sacred courts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Remember, that was the tribe of Abraham. Is guidance brought to naught by reason of the wise men? Has their judgment vanished? Make haste, you, mark the rebellious. Be set to root out, O lodgers of Dedan. For I will bring a calamity to desolate the fighting men among him at that time that I will enjoin him. At that time that I will enjoin him. Verse 17, also, Edom shall be a destroyer. Every assemblage that go to war against the same shall be destroyed, and shall hiss at the corners thereof. But take heed, they shall come forth to make atonement by desiring earnestly to desolate, to put off with the assembly of the adversary. And I will suddenly make them seek greedily to do away with them. And And who is my elect chief that I may appoint over them? And who is like me? And who will restore me the solemn assembly? And who is that shepherd that will trust in me? Therefore, hear the counsel of Yah that he have determined concerning Edom, and his purposes that he hath planned for the lodges of Teman. Surely the faithfulness of the shepherds shall strengthen them thenceforth. Surely they shall make their builders unite with them. In verses 28 through 29, it is written concerning Kedar and concerning the sovereigns that separate, which Nebuchadnezzar a sovereign of Babylon shall plague. This promise Yah, arise you, translate to minister unto Kedar, and lay to pledge the chiefs of the eastward builder. Their lodges and their pastors they shall lay to pledge afterward. They shall remove from themselves their wicked and their weapons and their benefits, and they shall proclaim unto them the impudent shall be quickly removed on every side. In Psalms chapter 108, verses 7 through 13, it is written, Yah has declared concerning his holy portion, we will rejoice, I will give consent, and mete out the inheritance of Sukkot. That's 3 places in Palestine. Gilead is mine, Manasseh is mine. Fruitfulness also is the strength of my chief man. Judah is my lawgiver. The chief is like my cauldron to lave. About Edom will I spread out my shut up. Against Palestine will I triumph. Who will pardon me from the violent place? And who will lead me into Edom? Will not you, O Yah, who have dispersed us hereafter? And will not you, O Yah, begin a deliverance without worthy? Grant us a pardon from the evildoer, for ruin is the aid of a Levite. By reason of Yah we shall perform valiantly, for he it is that shall tread down our enemies. Also, briefly, in the book of Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1 through 5 and 9 through 16, there shall come forth correction from the stock of Jesse, and an anointed one shall break forth by reason of his roots. And the divine inspiration of Yah shall remain in him, a divine intellect of wisdom and understanding, and intellect of reason and mastery, a mind that deal wisely and that reverence likewise Yah, and shall make him therefore restore instruction according to the reverence of Yah. And he shall not vindicate by reason of the favorite of his humble, neither convict because of a rumor to desolate his families, but in righteousness shall he defend the poor, and reason together with the upright for the humble of the husbandry. And he shall destroy magical craft by reason of his word, and by reason of the inspiration of his word shall he cut off the wicked door. Righteousness shall be the apron of his armed men, and faithfulness the apron of his drawn out. They shall not corrupt nor oppress among all my pious raised up, for the husbandry shall be full of the understanding of Yah, to render sure the watercourses overwhelm the west. And at that time there shall come the root of Jesse, which shall stand firm as an ensign for the tribes. Concerning him shall the foreign nations make search, and his lot shall be honored. And it shall come to pass after that process of time, that the sovereign shall confirm his ministry again the second time, to bring home again the reserved for his worthy, which shall altogether stand firm with the Gad, and with Egypt, and with Pathros, and with Ethiopia, and with Elam, and with Shinar, and because of the revolution, and because of the islands of the west. And he shall establish hereafter a banner for the foreign nations, and shall summon the forces of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of the fellowship from the sprawling projects of the country. The envious also of the fruitful shall be dismayed, and the adversaries of the ministry shall be cut off. The fruitful shall not envy the thankful, and the thankful shall not agitate the fruitful. And they shall spread according to the consent to lie waste Palestine with the west. They shall bereave them as the ancient time together. They shall lay unto charge their ministry with Edom and the chiefs of the tribes shall consent them. Moreover, the elder shall utterly impoverish the highlands that border beside the salt sea. And by reason of his encouraged region shall he lay to pledge his watercourse, to restore the inheritance, and to lay unto charge the chiefs, to bring home again both the exiled guide and the shut up. And thereout shall be committed the raised up of the banished of his nations, which shall altogether stand firm with the guide, like it was for YISRAYL within the year when he departed from out of the country of the adversary. St. Matthew chapter 24, verses 3 through 4, 14 and 30, it is written, and as he abided with an honorable man that was prominent, the disciples came to him privately, questioning, tell us, when shall these oracles come to pass? And what shall be the sign of thy revelation and the end of the Roman Empire? And Yahshua answered and said to them, take heed that no chief deceive you. And this manner of life of royalty shall be preached in all truthfulness as a witness against all the chiefs. And then the revolution happened. And then shall appear the omen of the anointed one of the patrimony among honorable men. And then shall all the kindred of the husbandry ponder, and they shall discern clearly the reign of the patrimony being revealed to the princes of the honorable men, to minister and strengthen the nobles. And they shall send out their messengers with a great tale of suretyship, and gather together their elect with the upright of the husbandry and the other. Isaiah chapter 21, verses 2 through 4, verses 6 through 17. A glorious vision is manifested to me. A treacherous dealer certainly act covertly, but the destroyer lay waste. Prepare to strike, O Elam. Assault, O Media. All the mourning therein have I made to cease. Moreover, are my armed men gathered together against the region. The inheritance have taken a pledge to endure with me. In like manner, the ambassadors of the stranger that take a pledge. I have humbled myself continually at the understanding of it. I was alarmed at the discerning of the same. My mind wandered. Reverence prostrated me. The lodge of my good men have he gave for reverence to me. For this have y'all commanded to me. Go, consult the watchman. Let him speak of that which he discerned. And the same discern a builder against the pervert of the dispersed, a builder that bear fruit, and a builder that do good. And he showed forth diligently concerning all visions. And he said, be merciful, my master. I stand firm continually as the watchman for the elder, and I am set in my charge to end adversity. And take heed, henceforth go to war the honorable men of the patrimony against the pervert of the dispersed. And he spoke and declared, confusion is cast down, we will not perish. And all the graven images of her gods have cast as profane out of the husbandry. O my downtrodden people, and the country to desolate my cutout. That which I have showed forth of the sovereign of the sacred courts, the refuge of Israel, have I declared to you. A prophecy for Duma. They came to me out of fear. Watchmen, what of the Arab? Watchmen, what of the violence? The watchman declared, a turn of affairs is at hand, and also destruction. When you yourselves ask counsel, inquire of you, and an answer is known. A prophecy concerning Arabia. Within the park in Arabia shall you lodge, O foreign traveler, received of the dawn. The lodges of the husbandry of Tema prepared a banquet for him that required the desert. They anticipated with their families him that lifted up a standard, for he fled from among the desolate, because of a prolonged judicial punishment, and for the habitual pervert, and because of the wickedness of the condemned. For this have y'all declared to me, within a year, when the honorable princes herein make a banquet, and all the nobles of Kedar shall make a covenant, and the rest of the family list of teachers, the violent chiefs of the kindred of Kedar shall be restrained, for Yah, the sovereign of Israel, have decreed it. Also, concerning the patrimony tribes, in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verses 1 through 5, 8 through 12, 25 through 28. This declare Yah, take heed, I will bring against Babylon and against them that lodge with the carpenters of them that lift up to minister against me a destructive blast. And I will send against Babylon strangers that shall diffuse her and shall depopulate her country. For in the time of panic they shall come against her round about. In like manner, the desolate shall be judged with the husbandry of the maidens, and they that are cast out because of the husband, and they that are cast out because of their own lawgivers. For Israel shall not be discarded, nor Judah of his strength of the sovereign of the sacred courts, though their husbandry were filled with the crimes against the Holy One of Israel. Babylon is suddenly overthrown and appointed to utter destruction. Howl for her, take pressure from her anguish, if so altogether she may be made whole. We would have restored thoroughly Babylon, but she cannot be repaired. Leave her, and let us return every man to his own country. For her punishment came from honorable men, and is brought forth at dust from the skies. Yah has brought forth our justice. Come, let us examine in truthfulness the oracles of Yah's sovereign. Translate to enlighten the patrimony. Assemble the rulers. Yah has brought forth divine inspiration for the sovereigns of Media. For his purposes is against Babylon to destroy it. For they are the avengers of Yah, the revenge for his temple. Establish hereafter an ensign because of the masons of Babylon. Make the safeguard courageous. Bind the minister to be circumspect. Make preparation to lie in wait. For Yah has both purpose and put in execution that which he declared against the lodges of Babylon. Certainly, I am against you, O corrupt builder, declared Yah, which ruin all the husbandmen. And I will send forth my slayer against you, and remove you altogether out of the stronghold, and render you a burnt offering surely. And they shall not help of you a mason from this place, nor the cut off from the burning. You shall altogether burn because of the east, declared Yah. Establish you hereafter an ensign with the husbandry, sound an alarm to strike against the Gentiles. Prepare the tribes against her. Bring together against her the realms of Armenia, many, and Ashkenaz. Appoint a military governor over her. Counsel the horsemen to go forth as cruel ravagers. Prepare against her the foreign nations, equally with the sovereigns of Media, the military governors thereof, and all the stewards thereof, and the husbandmen of his dominion. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 18, Isaiah chapter 18, it is written, woe to the nations quivering by reason of the gleamings of the air, which beacons the region across the seas of the blackamoor, that appointed ambassadors from the west, even with utensils for papyrus concerning the watercourses, counseling, hasten, you despised adversary, against a foreign nation, divided and independent, to tribes violent from their beginning unto now, bound together grudgingly and stamped upon utterly, whose land the strong have laid waste. All you lodges of the overseer, and you lodges of the husbandry, take heed, when he furnish hereafter an ensign because of the raised, and when he give up the suretyship, be obedient you. For this declared Yah, for this say Yah, declared unto me, I will confirm my superiority, and I will give understanding to my foolish builder, to render sure purge to anger the lifted up luminary, and likewise the enchanter, that cover within the hot displeasure to lay waste the foliage. For before the harvest, when the flower is full, and the immature blossom is ripening with the flower, he shall both cut off the worthless with pruning hooks, and separate the set aside, and cut away foliage. They shall be joined unitedly against the raised of the honorable men, and against the revived of the husbandmen. And the honorable men shall lay a snare because of them, and all the brutish persons of the husbandry shall hide by reason of them. And that time shall the compensation be made by the sovereign of the sacred courts, for the tribes divided and independent, and from a foreign nation violent from their beginning until now. A foreign nation bound together grudgingly and walked by footmen, whose country the inheritance shall have destroyed, according to the ministry for the work of the sovereign of the sacred courts, the perfect overseer. This oracle is referring to the countries that will be quivering in terror by the gleamings, which beacon the region across the seas of the blackamoor. The region across the seas of the blackamoor is the west, for the region of the blackamoor is the continent of Africa in the east. And the western seashore man will see the gleamings of the destruction of Babylon, and all the wicked of the eastward nations and the Roman Empire will take notice, because they know that a war will be in full effect, and it will come. And at that time, when they see this, all the brutish persons of the husbandry will hide, no matter where they are, and no matter what nation they are. And Palestine will be one of those nations judged. And this is Jeremiah chapter 47. An oracle of Yah that came to a Yah-inspired man against Palestine. Before this man, Pharaoh, an Egyptian sovereign, subdued the impudent. This declared Yah, take heed, a wasting enemy strike from the north, and he shall greatly desire to conquer the inheritance, and shall overwhelm the country, and everyone that is therein, the city, and all them that reside therein. Then the chief shall be troubled, and all the residents of the country shall yell from the uproar of the clatter of a part of his violent horsemen, and at the quaking of his weapons, and at the multitude of his ranks. The chief shall not care for the captives of their families because of the feebleness to desolate the forces, because of that day that come to pass to destroy even Palestine, and to cut off with the adversary the hunter and every helper which is left behind. For Yah will destroy Palestine and escape portion of the island of Kaftor. Abundance have settled in Gaza. Ascalon is cut off with the fugitives of their builder. How long will you hide thyself, O you destroyer for Yah? How long will it be before you desire to be at peace? Bring forth thyself from thy scabbard, destroy and altogether stand upright. How can they have peace, seeing that Yah have laid unto charge the same to execute judgment against Ascalon and against the seashore? There have he directed they. In the book of Ezekiel, chapter 25, verse 15 through 17. This declared Yah the sovereign, because Palestine have separated itself because of a grudge, and have pledged revenge with a despiteful courage, to devote it to the ancient enemy that is Israel. Therefore, this declared Yah the sovereign, certainly I will bring forth mine slayer against Palestine, and I will abolish hereafter the covenant and destroy the remainder of the seacoast. And I will execute vengeance against them with wrathful chastisements, and they shall acknowledge that I am Yah when I shall recompense my vengeance against them. Also, this is concerning Gog and Magog, as well as the rest of Israel in the patrimonial tribes. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 6 and verse 9 through 23. And the word of Yah came to me, saying, and declare, this say Yah the sovereign, take heed, I am against you, O opponent of the Messiah, and the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And I will reward you with calamity, and put chains upon thy captives, and I will condemn you without fail, and all thine officers, horsemen, and wounded, all of them fettered with all sorts of things, even the insolent kindred, with the rulers and protectors, all of them captured to destroy. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya against them, all of them with the ruler and his company. Gomer and all his company and all his army, the chiefs of Togarmah and the northern territories and all his armies, and many tribes against you. You shall mount up and appear like unto a storm. You shall be like unto an enchanter, both to desolate and overwhelm the husbandry. You and all thy armies and many Gentiles with you. This declare Yah the sovereign. It shall come to pass that at the same time shall acts come into thy mind, and you shall purpose an evil act, and you shall think, I will go forth against the land of open towns, and I will depart against them that are in a settled spot, that dwell safely, all of them residing without masons, and having neither chiefs nor porters, to seize plunder and to seize food, to turn aside thine forces against the solitary places that are now inhabited, and against the communities that are gathered from among the foreign nations, who have procured possessions and good things that reside amongst the carpenters of the husbandry. This is referring to the families of YISRAYL and all those that had migrated from the west before the destruction of Babylon. So again, chapter 12, to seize plunder, to seize food, to turn aside thine forces against the solitary places that are now inhabited, and against the communities that are gathered from among the foreign nations, who are procured possessions and good things that reside among the carpenters of the husbandry. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the people protected thereof, shall think concerning you. Are you come to seize plunder? Have you gathered thy band of soldiers to seize plunder, to carry away silver and gold, and take away possessions and good things, and to seize much plunder? Therefore, anointing one of the patrimony, prophesy and say concerning God, this declare Yah the sovereign. And that time, when the families of Israel reside safely, shall you not know it? And you shall depart from thy locality of the northern frontiers, you and many Gentiles with you, all of them carried by the means of rapid flight. an insolent band of soldiers, and a proudly spoken army. And you shall come forth against my people to desolate Israel, like unto an enchanter, both to desolate and overwhelm the husband, And it shall be in the latter process of time, and I will bring you against my husbandry, that the foreign nations may acknowledge me, when I shall be sanctified because of you, O God, in their presence. This declare Yah the sovereign. Are you they of whom I have spoken from an ancient time by my husband the prophets of Israel, who have prophesied in those days many years that I would bring you against them? And it shall come to pass at that same time when God shall come against them, shall come against the land of Israel, promise Yah the sovereign, that my rage shall come forth by reason of my humble. For in my zeal and by reason of the light to desolate my fury have I spoken. Surely before that day there shall be a great moving by the husbandry of Israel, so that the afraid of the west, and the faint of the raised up, and the brutish of the inheritance, and whosoever increase abundantly wicked iniquities that abound in the husbandry, and all the kindred that are against the knowledge of the husbandry, and fear by reason of my knowledge, and the hills shall be destroyed altogether and put off. Builders shall be condemned, and every mason shall be judged in the husbandry. And I will call for a murder cry against them by means of all my raised up, promise Yah the sovereign. Every valiant man's cutting instrument upon his associate, and I will execute judgment against him with plagues and with bloodshed. And I will shoot against them, and against his armies, and against the many Gentiles like them, an overwhelming storm, and great hailstones, burning and brimstone. In like manner will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and will be acknowledged in the presence of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yah. And then Isaiah chapter 60. This is Isaiah chapter 60. And now we're in here, if Yah will. Arise, enlighten you, for thy wisdom is acknowledged, and the honor of an elder is ordained upon you. For consider, ignorance shall be turned ignorance shall turn aside the husbandman, and the dark misery the chiefs. But Yah shall continue to exalt you, and the foreign nations shall convert because of thy wisdom, and sovereigns because of the warning of thy decree. Lift up thine eyes round about, and consider. All they gather themselves unitedly. They made themselves known because of you. Thy chief shall arrive from a far country, and the chief shall altogether trust in thine ministry. Then shalt you prophesy and be cheerful together, and thine discontented shall be afraid, and required to make room, because the elders of the south shall be converted to you. The resources of the foreign nations shall extend to you, and the abundance of benefits shall fill you. The properties of Midian and Ephah, and those from Sheba shall rejoice again. They shall meet to fortify and offer sacrifice, and they shall render forth the sacrifices of praise for Yah. And the shepherds of Kedar shall be gathered unitedly to you, and the chiefs of Neboiah, and shall minister concerning you. They shall come forth by reason of voluntary will concerning my chief, and I will bring to honor the families for my glory. Who are they that flee away like unto a cloud, as wine bibbers from their households? Truly, the country shall trust in me, and the commanders of the merchant vessels together, to bring thy worthy from far countries their desire, and their most fine gold before them, for the work of Yah thy sovereign, and for the Holy One of Israel, because he hath honored you. And the kindred of the foreigners shall surely receive thy masons, and their sovereigns shall minister concerning you. And in my anger I punished you, but in my kindness I have determined favor for you. Therefore thy limbs shall be open always; they shall not be restrained day or night, that the worthy may appoint according to you the valiant of the people, and that their foundations may be established. For the community in the realm that will not contribute to you shall be cut off. Moreover, those communities shall be utterly corrupted. The renown of the whites shall make self known to you, and the musical carpenter, and the wasted away carpenter, and the relieved likewise, to boast faithfulness for my holy thing. And I will make the ministry of my chief men honorable. And the kindred also of them that confine you shall come humbling themselves before you, and they that lightly esteem you shall subdue themselves altogether at the power of thy company, and they shall call you the porter of Yah, the overseer of the dedicated valiant men of Yisrael. Whereas you had been put away and hated personally, so that no kindred adduced an argument for you, I will mark you a concealed ornament, the joy of the honorable families. You shall nurse the choice of the foreign nations, and shall squeeze out the insolence of the sovereigns. You shall know that I am Yah, thy Savior, and thy Avenger, the chief Holy One of the restrained. For filthiness I will give you fine gold, for iron bring silver, and for wood brass, and for throw stones iron implements. I will also make thy officers familiar, and thine taskmasters do justice. Violence shall no more be consented by thy husbandmen, robbery nor oppression within thy regions, but you shall pay thy masons to defend, and thy drawn out to triumph. A window shall no more be thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light to you. But Yah shall be for you a perpetual luminary, and thou restrain thy honorable men. Thy enlightened shall no more dissemble to blaspheme, neither shall thy wives withdraw themselves, for Yah shall be thy perpetual luminary, and the days of thy tumultuous shall be brought to pass. Thy kindred also shall be upright. They shall take as an heritage the husbandry to employ truthfulness, the watchman of my planter, the product of my ministry, that I may be glorified. The raised up worthy shall be committed to learn, and the accepted husband of virtuous chief. I, Yah, will hasten this in his ministry. The book of Micah, chapter 5. Now gather thyself to attack, O chief of the travelers. He hath brought the confined against us. They shall destroy the judge of Israel according to the correction of the devourer. But you, Bethlehem Ephratah, though you are diminished among thousands of Judah, yet from you shall come forth to me that is to be ruler over Israel, whose family descent and scribe have been of an ancient time, from antiquity. Therefore will he recompense them hereafter, until the process of time which that fear is brought forth. Then the rest of his kindred shall return with the worthy of Yisrael, and he shall stand firm and shepherd according to the truthfulness of Yah, in the majesty of the name of Yah his sovereign, and they shall endure. For at that time shall he be great in the territories of the earth, and this chief man shall be the recompense, when the guide come against our husbandry, that is God, and when he shall come against our habitations. Then shall we raise against him the adjured shepherds and the rich chief men, and they shall destroy the nations of the guide with a missile of attack, and the husbandry of Nimrod with the put off thereof. In like manner shall he deliver us from the guide when he come against our husbandry, when he come against our territories. And the others of the restrained shall be among the carpenters of the honorable chiefs as a covering from the chief, to establish an accumulation throughout the court, that fail not the honorable chief, nor adhere to the impudent chiefs of the patrimony. And the posterity of the restrained shall be over the foreign nations among the carpenters of many people, like unto a great lion among creatures of a forest, like unto a merciful lion among flocks of a sheepfold, who, if he come against, both thresh down and pull to pieces, and no man can help. Thine ministry shall be exalted up over thine adversaries, and thine enemies shall be cut off. And it shall come to pass on that day, declare Yah, that I will cut off thy drivers with the carpenters of you, and will destroy thy vehicles. And I will cut off the raised up of thy husbandry, and overthrow altogether thy covert defenders. And I will cut off witchcrafts out of thine husbandry, and you shall no more have enchanters. Thy graven images will I cut off, and thy standing idols from among the carpenters of you, and you shall no more worship the thing made of thine hands. And I will flay hereafter the guides in the streets of you. And like manner will I destroy thy masters, and I will execute vengeance in anger and rage against the heathen, such as they have surely heard. And right there, brothers, I will end it right there. And for the sake of those listening, that was just part 2 of the patrimony tribes and how they are mentioned in the revolution and in its last days. And it will be against its judgment starts in the temple. And that means with the priest, because it is the chief priest and the clergy that has corrupted the ministry and has not only brought curses down on Israel, but also the patrimony tribes, because on the Levites, on the priesthood, lies all the transgressions that the people committed. And if the priest and the overseer of these lodges are chief in the transgressions, then that means all the patrimony tribes are cast as profane because of their wickedness and their perverseness. So therefore, the patrimony must come together to put an end of wickedness, or else nothing, no revolution, no destruction of Babylon will take place. Because right now, Israel is divided. And Israel is divided because everyone is debating because of the law, but no one is keeping the law. And no one wants to protect the covenant and bring correction in the husbandry. Therefore, families are suffering and ignorance is abounding right now. And for the sake of those listening, understand there is no difference between the Holy Bible and the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran is that book which refers to which was given to us through inspiration of Yah through the Prophet Muhammad. Just like the Gospels was the book that was given to us through the inspiration of Yah to Yahshua. Just like the law of Moses was given as inspiration by Yah through Moses as his book. All prophets have their books. It just so happened that the Holy Quran is the book of the Prophet Muhammad, but the Prophet Muhammad is a descendant from the tribe of Abraham. And because of that, all tribes of Islam and even Muhammad are under the everlasting covenant and under all the blessings and curses of those that protect the covenant. All of us are included. None of us are greater than the other. Let the man who is greater among us keep and uphold the law and the prophets. And this is what the scriptures teach us. And this is what all the patrimony tribes should stand on: truth, justice, the law, and the word of Yah. And until we do that, we will be divided and continue to be in confusion. And with that, I turn the floor back over to you.
Con, brother, con. This was a controversial and deep biblical breakdown series. Was Yahawashi / Yahshua, did he die on the cross? And part 2 of is Islam and the Quran tie into Hebrew Israelite culture? The brother has presented his case. He stuck with the law and the prophets. Please leave your comments in the comment section. Brother YISRAYL, once again, man, you brought another controversial and deep biblical breakdown. I hope the fans got a clear understanding. I mean, the audience got a clear understanding. And I'm going to go back and check this out myself a couple of times, my brother. You do a really good job. And keep up the good work, man.
Shaquan brothers, man, I appreciate all those tuning in and listening. And even with myself, I have my own struggles and everything, but just make one thing, man, try to keep those laws, man. I mean, it's the covenant we are under, and it's an everlasting covenant. And we must understand that the elect is not with that multitude is going to be from those tribes and those that conform to righteousness. And before we can do that, we have to put away those indoctrinations and focus on the law of Yah and the covenant, and become familiar with a lot of terminologies and titles that we use for the name of Yah, because a lot of those titles are unholy and unfit to use. And that's why, we should be circumspect, and we should continue to search for knowledge and seek knowledge. In the Holy Bible, in the Quran, in the Gospels, it's all there for us. It's all ours. That is our history books. Even in the Book of Jubilees, even in the Legend of the Jews, order those books. Please order them. You'll know that Keturah, the wife of Abraham, was also Hagar, the Egyptian. handmaid. Yes, she was the Egyptian handmaid, but this is not taught, but it is in the scriptures. And we shouldn't be biased towards our own scriptures. We shouldn't be biased towards our own scriptures. So I just, encourage everyone to study. Study on your own, and not only study on your own, always incline to wisdom, especially if that wisdom is the law of the prophets, because that is what keeps us and preserves us. That is what gives us life. And it let us know what sin is and recognizing sin and those who sin. Because it's impossible for one to be corrected according to the law of the prophets and still want to maintain his course of life because he doesn't want to humble himself and submit to the will of Yah. And the will of Yah, submission to the will and to the guidance is to him, it's to Yah and his law. That is submission. That is our Islam. That is not only our Islam, we all must submit. That should be what Hebrew Israelites should be doing. Total submission. Submission to his will and guidance, the law, and not your own indoctrination. Not your own indoctrination. And with that, brothers, it's all yours.
Con. So brothers and sisters out there, we hope y'all got a good show. Controversial and deep biblical breakdown series. Once again, did Yahawashi / Yahshua die on the cross in part 2? Do the Quran and Islam tie into Hebrew Israelite culture? Once again, thank you, Brother YISRAYL. Shalom.
Shalom, brothers. Peace.